Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to Hardstuck Gold, the series where bad League of Legends players talk about good League of Legends players. And today we are joined by just Brock, which is fine. Not ideal. Obviously, we'd prefer to have all three, but hey, it is what it is. Brock is still pretty cool.
Try.
You try, yeah. So today we're going to be talking a lot about the confirmed LCS rosters. We might slightly touch on some LEC stuff if it comes up, but primarily we'll be focusing on the LCS. Next week is going to be really fun. We're going to be doing a whole thing about the Eastern team, so it's going to be LPL and LCK with another writer at the Game House, JJ. So look forward to that. But let's just get into this. I guess we'll start off with 100 Thieves because there's not much to talk about.
Not much to talk about. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right because we're going to see five of these players again, right? They are deciding to bring back the entirety of the roster so far. But the real exciting part is the fact that they're going to run this six-man roster with tenacity. And this should be really exciting for a lot of 100 Thieves fans, as Someday had a little bit of a poor showing. So being able to kind of swap in tenacity is going to be just really, really interesting to watch, and hopefully a very successful experiment for them.
Yeah. I think Someday had a really bad spring split. I don't think his summer was as bad. I think he looked a lot better. I think that could partially be due to Abadage coming in. Maybe that had something to do with it, a little bit more stability in the team. But I think he had a lot better of a summer. Not elite anymore. I don't think he's top 3, but I think he's a solid 4. And I think this is a great way for 100 Thieves to get someone new in, and worst case, you still have a solid 4, right? I think they'll probably run Tenacity and Lock-In, which is
Yeah,
confirmed to come back. I see no reason why they wouldn't, because it doesn't matter. I guess it matters for Pride. So
yeah,
whether how
yeah,
much that matters to them, who knows? If Tenacity's tanking it, maybe they throw in Someday. But I
right.
doubt that's gonna happen. Tenacity's obviously a very, very good player. But
I will say about the lock-in, the one benefit that I did hear from some coaches was the fact that this was primarily coming from C9 because they had played an entire split before the split, right? So
yeah,
for teams that are really young and the majority of the league has now completely new rosters, they're going to need the extra games. So lock-in comes in really important for some teams where we want to just get as much quote unquote real scrim time against the actual strats as they can. And if they win, awesome. If they don't, then well, a little less scrim time and I guess a little more regular practice. So
yeah,
we'll see.
and it helps player confidence a ton. I mean, that Fudge always talks about it, how much he into Lock-In, and he knew it, and he was like, "Well, I got to do better." And he looked at that as like a great learning experience. Getting on the stage, he got so much flame in that Lock-In run that pretty much nothing could have topped it. Even if he tanked for the rest of the year, like it would have just been equal, right? So he
Exactly.
got the
Yeah.
worst part out of the way, and then he ended up adapting so well. So I think again for young players like Tenacity or like Jojo Pune or some of the other like Takui coming into the league, like these are great opportunities to just get some confidence. Even if you int, who cares? So
Honestly, if you're gonna end at any time, might as well do it in the preseason tournament, right?
yep,
Try something real
it's
wonky.
like Kespa Cup in the LCK. Like they would always the Korean teams would always try like these weirder rosters. Some stuff if they were running like a 6 or 7 man roster, didn't know who, they would sometimes put in the player they were less confident in just to see what happens, and it ended up
Exactly.
leading to some teams like you would assume would do really well, like T1 or Damwon Kia. They like place 8th, but they had like their subs in, so it didn't matter. But it was a great way to learn. So I guess one other thing about 100 Thieves is that they signed General Snipers, which
Yes,
I
they
am
did.
so happy about. Obviously, for those who have not followed this, he was previously signed by C9, but thanks to, I think it's California law, they had to undo that because he wasn't old enough, which is kind of funny.
He was
Um,
14 at the
I
time.
think he was
13.
14.
Okay.
I think it was like 15 or 16 was the requirement. So C9 kind of got cucked. Unlucky for them, but it do be like that. So 100 Thieves swoops in with the biggest, what some people were describing as the biggest signing in the offseason for NA, which I know sounds like excessive, but this guy's rank 1 on NA servers at 15. It's
It is. It is
crazy.
so warranted. No, it is absolutely probably one of the most. It's exciting, interesting, and just crazy moves in the offseason that got people talking. Because
Yeah.
yeah, the kid's 15, rank 1, and he has been just like sought after at this point for years now from the highest level teams, and they're like, he's got it, man. This is one of those players that just they just get it and they're gonna roll as soon as they can to get into like challengers because it's he's now just challengers, right? Not academy yet.
Yeah, yeah, he's
100th next.
yeah,
Yeah,
100 Thieves next, so it's amateur system.
yeah. Oh man, he's gonna smurf.
Well, I mean, what's exciting is that 100 Thieves Next has consistently been an incredibly good roster. I think we were talking about this in a call earlier, but we were saying like every single player on 100 Thieves Next, with the exception of Hooks, from that original 5-man roster,
Yeah.
went on to do great things. And even Hooks had an academy run, so it's hard to flame that, right? But you have Tenacity. Oh god, I'm gonna blank on everyone else. But you had a bunch of players. I swear on it. But every player on that original 100 Thieves Next roster, Kenvi, all went on to do great things. So it's gonna be exciting to see what happens there. And they're gonna be playing academy teams because this is a team that's good enough to make scouting grounds or whatever they're gonna call it this year. Or not scouting grounds, proving grounds. Sorry. But yeah, it's pretty good overall. Any other thoughts on 100 Thieves? I know they signed the C9 coach. Maybe that
Which coach?
they
I don't
signed.
know. They grab Mithy.
Yeah, they grabbed Mithy.
Okay.
I
Um,
think. Let me check this.
it's. I mean, if they did, all right. I think that's one of the like the unconfirmed slash like rumor mill
No,
going
no,
on, or
yeah,
it's
it's a
confirmed.
it's a report right now, but
Okay.
apparently they signed Mithy as a assistant coach.
Yeah, so that fits the bill because unfortunately, and I always talk about this a couple weeks ago, the coaching for C9 has been so hit or miss, and we've seen a little bit from Mithy beforehand with TSM, where he did pretty all right. I think Mithy still has a little bit to go to become like full time head coach.
Yeah,
I think he's so close though. He's like right there. And then like this past year with C9, maybe my image just been more of a player trying to do too much than that Mithy really couldn't really pull it all together. So it'll be interesting to see him again in an assistant role and see if he can make this next step that way. The other guys from 100 Thieves Next that we know, Copy and Poom.
oh, thank you,
Uh,
thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah.
like,
Oh,
it's
and NXI.
yeah, NXI as well. It's such a
Yeah.
no, yeah. So it wasn't Kenby then. All right, but it's like that. It's such a great roster of players, all from one amateur team. So it really goes to show like how much putting actual money and effort into amateur can do in the long run.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
Who would have
wild.
guessed? Yeah, every other region in the world guessed besides NA.
We
But
got there eventually, right?
yeah. It only took how many years? 10 years, but yeah, we're here. All right, let's talk about C9 though, because we did briefly mention them there. Uh, I want to start off with the coaching rumors because we were just talking about coaches, and I think
Yeah.
it's really interesting. The current rumor is that we are going to get the Church of LS. We're going to have Vagar, we're going to have
Oh
LS,
boy.
and Max Waldo, um, which is just an interesting like. Put aside like just LS joining, but you have the LS disciples. It's like Belichick and his disciples. It's very
Yeah.
similar, but they're like reuniting them all on one team. So I'm kind of
It's
concerned.
it's gonna be very much either the most just like obvious thing you could have done, right? Just this really smart content creator, and he coached for T1 a little bit, or just content creator for
Uh,
T1.
yeah, God, he was
I know,
going to
right?
be the head coach of
Okay.
T1. Korean fans had a riot because they were, let's just say, not receptive is the nicest way to say it. They like put billboards outside of T1's headquarters. They were doing all sorts of crazy stuff, giving
All right.
LS death threats, fun stuff. And
Yikes.
they ended up pulling out, and they signed the former DK coach, who
Yep.
ironically got kicked halfway through the year
Yep.
because he sucked. Um,
So yeah, it's gonna be incredibly interesting to see if LS style will translate over into like this new team, right? Already, like what I have seen, he's incredibly close to both Fudge and Max Waldo. So already his influence is probably maybe without knowing or maybe totally knowing, as he's gonna try to like push for this head coaching job. Uh, has already kind of started seeping into the Cloud9 organization.
mhm.
And with the other rumored signings, these are other guys that LS has said, "Oh, he is going to be a stud once he gets to the league," or like under the right conditions, like this guy is he's got it right.
Yeah,
So the tea leaves kind of say LS will join. However, already with Cloud9 as a whole, many of the deals have fallen through. So you kind of cross your fingers a little bit, right? Because you're not really sure what can happen at this point. And yeah, now it's just waiting to see if it either comes true or we hear another report saying, well, this other thing happened. It's not going to happen. We're going to bring up new person, right?
yeah.
So that's I know that's the most generic answer I can
No, but
probably
it's
give.
true though. Like, I mean, so much has gone wrong with I think C9 in the offseason. It's no secret that the original plan was to get rid of Sven, and then it
Yeah,
seemed like they were keeping Sven, and then it seems like now they got rid of Sven, and just everything just seemed to have been up in the air. Like there was plans of keeping Vulcan, there was plans of possibly even selling Blabber. Like there was so much that seemed to have happened. That's kind of crazy, actually. So like to say that, hey, maybe the LS thing won't happen and they'll bring up someone else is entirely possible. I also worry though with a guy like that, and I don't hate LS. I actually find his content very interesting at points. But there is no denying that is a team of three big egos. Vagar has a big
yes,
ego, Max Waldo has a big ego, and LS has a big ego. And so I wonder, and I'm not saying this will happen. I'm throwing out a possibility merely. But like I wonder if that's going to create some conflict because sure, Fudge is close, right?
yep,
But how close is Blabber? You know, with LS, I don't know. Maybe they're really close, right? And they're good friends and they respect each other. But what if that creates some tension? What if that creates some tension with the potential Korean players that we'll bring up in a second? Like, I do think that is a possibility. And furthermore, I wonder if LS is going to be able to take the same criticism that he gives of coaches. And again, that's not flaming him. We just haven't seen him in a head coach position, and he is
right.
someone who's very vocal about opinions.
Yeah,
So
especially yeah, like, and I think you hit the nail around the head there, especially with you know, like watching his reaction on co-streams about like just in general, mainly like draftive, and then just like um, I mean, he says a lot of like losing to the shopkeeper, but that's more of a normal meme. We all say that,
yeah,
but in general, when you kind of become someone that is very critical of coaching, and now you're kind of thrust in that position that you've been critical of for so long, everyone is just dying to
yeah,
just
they're
give a good
biting at
old
the
like,
chops, dude. They're biting at the chops to say you picked Renekton after years of hating
oh
on
my
Renekton,
goodness.
LS. You're such a hypocrite. Like
Wow, I can't believe you did it. You really they changed you, bro. The league really
they
changed you,
changed.
man.
This guy built Collector over LDR, and you're the head coach. What's wrong with you? Like it's
Growing, yeah, it's gonna
yeah,
be bad.
it's gonna be
Uh,
bad. And if he does it and this happens, no matter what, I'm gonna feel some sympathy towards him because like I'm gonna the amount of criticism he's gonna get is wild because there is an insane amount of LS haters as well. So I don't know. It's an interesting move if it happens. But let's talk about the roster. So
yes,
the current rumor right now is we have Summit, who is the current top laner for Live Sandbox. In the top lane, we have Blabber in the jungle, Fudge in mid lane, which is still crazy. We have Berserker, who is the T1 Challenger Series ADC, and we have, of all things, Winsome, who no one has ever heard of, and then Isles, who's the current Academy support. So those two will be competing. But one thing about Winsome, he is technically not a Korean, but lives in Korea, or he is a Korean, but you know what I mean. His residency is North American.
yeah. He
Um,
I believe he has a. I don't want to say dual citizenship, but at least
I don't
was
know.
born in the U.S. and then lived and played in Korea, so he does not count as an import.
So we are essentially breaking the system to get three imports, which is kind of funny.
Cloud9 has done it again.
They have done it again. They have found a way. But it's actually that's kind of cool, honestly, that they found this guy, and apparently he's quite good. From people who know more than me, and I trust their opinion because I've never heard of this guy in my life until the reports came out. I've seen a little bit of Berserker, and I know he's good. I know his stats are really good in Challenger Series. And Summit is spectacular.
Yep.
So many have called him like the second best or second, third, or fourth best like mechanical top laner in the LCK, which is hard. Keen is always number one, the Afrika Freaks top laner. He is insane. After
by
that,
far.
it
Yeah.
depends the season. If you want to throw, if it was like 2020, you might throw Nuguri up there. You might throw Summit up there. Like it really, it was so competitive that getting like even top two or three, even like third or fourth, it's hard. It's really hard. Korea makes insane top laners. They're so good.
Yeah, and the fact that Cloud9 is going to bring in another, right? Bring in like another top laner for the third year in a row is pretty crazy to me, like
Yeah.
personally, because Cloud9 has typically stuck with their top laner in the past, right? So like Ball's played for forever. Then they bring in Impact. Then there was a
Wasn't
couple
Impact only
years.
1 year, or was he 2 years?
He was 2 years, but
All
the
right.
second year that's when they swapped in like Ray,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
believe.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then they kind of like swap in between, and then they had Licorice for 2 years, and then finally they bring in Fudge, and then they're gonna bring in Summit. I think this is going to be a great ad for C9. If it does end up being confirmed, it really does sound like it.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know if you saw the most recent video of Jack and Fudge talk about just the comments on the roster.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, they're just joking around about Fudge's ability to play mid laners. I think the world swap aside, I do think that this roster has it's like such a C9 roster where
True.
it can be it can be really good, and again, a top seeded team go maybe make it to groups. Like more likely they probably have to go through play-ins.
Yeah, I totally
But
agree.
yeah, or it just falls apart, man. Like all it's like top down, just like nothing works. The fudge rule swap doesn't like really do anything. Berserker has a lot of first year, struggles. But it's gonna be fun watching anyway, because Cloud9 still manages to always make it exciting, or at least
Yeah,
somewhat interesting.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, I'm excited about Summit the most. Watching a bunch of his VODs from this past season, it's very clear that he was the best player on Live Sandbox,
That doesn't take
and
much, to be fair. That does not take a lot.
uh, which is very true as well. But when you stand out that much, you're like,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, there's clearly something more going on here, right? Like this guy's uh, going to be uh, someone you can really rely on the top lane, especially when you have a solid team around them. And I think that's what Cloud9's really looking for here, especially by keeping Fudge and Blabber, like, two people that everyone said they're like consistently really playing really at a high level. Blabber, maybe not so much in the beginning of summer, but it's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big comment is just who is Winsome and what can fans expect from a player from Shadow Batlica? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I wonder
and
who scouted him. Like
and
genuinely. I wonder who found this guy. And said this is what we want to do. This is the play. Because it's such an odd. It's like an arrow, sort of just like
yeah,
randomly yoink from a random region. We're gonna. I think this guy's really good. Let's just bring him in and see what happens. It's a leap of faith, and I think that's why the Isles is just as interesting as Winsome, because Isles is really good. He's really good. Like you could argue him and Elia were the two best supports in Academy last year, and then maybe you throw in Poom, maybe you throw in uh, oh god, I'm blanking. Whatever. But you throw in some
yeah.
other people, right? Who were really good, and so you like Isles deserves an LCS spot, especially. Actually, I'm looking at.
Well,
I would say he's better than Destiny. Like
I would say he's better than a couple of these players that we'll
yeah, a couple of
talk
these
about a little
players.
bit.
I'd say he's better than Biofrost. Like he's really good, and
Yeah,
I hope he sees some time, if not all the time. Um, but I just hope he gets a fair chance, and they don't just like you know hyper focus on the import guy Winsome, right?
I totally agree, and I think actually what Cloud9 might end up doing is throwing Isles in a couple of like layup games. I mean, if you can say that, I have no idea how strong these teams will be in
Yeah.
actuality. But in like supposed easier games, right? They put in Isles, he smurfs, and then they go, oh, like you can have him for a buyout, right? And do something like that, and then he gets eventually an LCS spot.
Mhm.
That's part of what I'm thinking they might do. I have no idea what would have changed their idea of this offseason and not doing it now when he has already had just amazing tape. But yeah,
Yeah, see, it's just so weird. Like, of all the promotions, like Isles, if you're getting rid of Vulcan, Isles seems like obvious. if you're going to promote like anyone, like promoting Fudge and getting rid of Licorice seemed a lot more controversial on paper. You know, like than promoting Isles. Like if you're going to get rid of Vulcan, I don't know. It's weird. I want to say one last thing though, real quick, to like further confirm the summit thing. Live
Yep.
Sandbox got a new top laner already. So just throwing
Oh,
that out there. They got
there
Dove,
it is.
who roll swap from mid to top. Funny enough, they're doing the reverse fudge. So just throwing that
The
out there.
Xiaohu, if you will.
Yeah, it literally
Yeah.
is a Xiaohu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else to say on C9 or?
I'm excited to see Berserker,
Yes.
another player that really just shined in the Challenger series. So, yeah, I think that if you're gonna really uh, take a new talent and really build them up to be one of the pillars of your team, like I think Berserker can be one of those guys, and Cloud9 fans should be excited about that.
Mhm. All right. Yeah, I also am really excited for Berserker, and he is the coolest name of all time. Like, yeah,
Exactly,
him
that's
on
gonna
a
be so
jersey
great to
is going to
shout.
be so
Yeah.
great. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Dignitas. Because frankly, with some of these moves, I think they're tossing their chances of winning. Um, let's start with just going down the roster.
Yeah,
So,
my boy.
Fake God in the top lane, River from PSG Talon in the jungle, Blue from is it SK, right? It's
Yes,
SK, yeah,
K. Yep.
SK Gaming, which LEC team. Neo obviously staying, and returning from the dead is Biofrost. Um, that's a move.
I will say about this, especially when we're just talking about Isles, between Biofrost and Ale, I I do like those players. I do think it's weird that sometimes teams will opt to uh an older talent, not old. I mean, they're still in their 20s, but a talent that didn't play for a year or took off a year from someone who actively still was in the system
Yeah, I mean,
that has like it was a little more familiar with I don't want to say the meta because it just vastly changed and that was for preseason, but
there is a difference between Ole and Biofrost though. Like, Ole went to Korea and boot camped for like a year straight. Uh, like versus Biofrost, who just played NA solo queue, and that's not a shade at Biofrost, but there is a bit of a difference there. Um,
yeah, I
but
think it's very fair to say solo queues are vastly different
yeah, but
in terms of like just skill wise.
yes, Korean solo queue is better, and he was. I mean, and he put in like 1.6K games this year, which is like that's a
Yeah.
significant amount. Like that's like double the amount I have, man. Like that's crazy, and I play too much League already. Um, but sorry, give me a second. My friend has invited me to a League game as we speak, and I have to tell him now. Uh, but the rest of the roster, besides Biofrost, I think is interesting. Neo, I think, is an obvious keep. If you're going to
Yep.
keep anyone from that last year's roster, makes
Completely agree.
sense. I've said it on last episode. I hate keeping Fake God. That to me makes no sense. I think he was the weakest link on the team. And to me, if I'm crafting a team, I want to get rid of the weakest link. So I find it
Typical.
baffling
Yeah.
that they decided to keep Fake God. I don't think he showed anything that he had this upward trajectory. They did all right in the spring when everyone on Dignitas was doing okay, but then all the other teams got better, and then he just got smacked for the rest of the year. So you had a player who peaked when everyone else was playing bad, and then got smacked, and you're deciding to keep him. Doesn't make sense. Blue is a baffling import choice. He has some of the worst stats of any mid laner I've ever seen in a professional league. But River's all right.
Blue Blue
River's a good
was
side.
yeah. I actually liked River a lot. I thought River showed a lot at Worlds and MSI. I thought like PSG as a whole
Yeah.
stunned me this year. I knew the players were really, really solid. They just like came through. They knew what they were doing and they really shined this year, and I love that for them. River I thought played exceptionally well, so I'm happy that I don't know how big the PCS viewership is. Probably not super great,
I
but
think it's
I mean
better than you would
probably
assume.
yeah. I'm just thinking in a bigger market that is the NALCS,
Yeah.
right? Getting more eyes on River is going to be great. I think River is going to be probably the best player on this team when things are said and done. Um, that's saying that Neo like just has like a normal year and he doesn't like continue to like massively improve. I really hope Neo does because he is great. But I do agree with you. Much as it pains me to say, I do think Fake God is probably the the weaker player on this team.
He might be the worst top lane in the league looking across this, with maybe the exception of the FlyQuest top laner coming up. But he,
Yeah, he's the top lane position has vastly improved over the
yes,
past year. So I think Summit, or that's not Summit. Thank God's got to really really do something to improve, or rather impress us all, because they might be looking for something different in summer.
can I say a hot take? 10th place team already. If I had to put down my money right now, without even some of these teams being complete, this Dignitas is a 10th place team. I think River is their only saving grace. Neo's fine, but I don't think Neo's like he's not good enough of a talent to carry the rest of this team, and that's not a shade on him. It's just like ADC can't really carry as hard as like some other positions.
Early, not the moment, not the way
Yeah,
the
actually,
item changes have
well,
shaped
the
up.
the the meta is actually pretty decent on ADCs. It's just like, but you need with Biofrost, like I feel like it's still a
Yeah,
downgrade from Afro. So like I don't see, unless like Blue like performs way above my expectations, I don't see how this team can win.
yeah. I think the problem is, as much as top lane has improved, I think mid lane is going to be like insanely hard for players that are typically, middle of the pack. I thought,
Well,
I believe this is,
Jensen
yeah,
and Jizuke may be out of the league, so that helps them.
and that does help a lot, and it's crazy to me that they're both out of the league. That is,
Yeah,
I had one thought. Sorry, a little bit of a tangent between for Jensen and Jizuke. Part of me says, "Wow, I can't believe they're out of the league. That's insane. Like they're just too talented." The other half of me is like, "Well, it was going to happen eventually, right? Like players can't stay forever. Teams have seen what they can do. Teams have seen them play, and apparently, for a lot of these guys or a lot of the orgs, it's not enough, or they cost too much,
Jensen.
and that sucks. It's definitely probably more Jensen costing
Well,
way
Jizuke
too
is a
much,
free agent, so yeah, that has no impact.
and that's tough. I mean, it's tough to lose kind of two true vets in the league, uh, but it is exciting to see some younger talent. The younger talent we are getting, however, definitely has to take that next step
Yeah,
and start really performing. Um, I think Blue is going to have a rough go of it to start. I don't think SK was really that good at all. I believe they end up finishing ninth in summer. Um,
remember they had their coach playing support for a bit.
They did. They did finish
That's
sixth in
crazy.
spring before everything flipped on its head. Yeah, in summer maybe it was just a throwaway, right? When you have they had their support them playing jungle.
Yeah, they had Treats, former C9,
Yep.
C9 TSM,
Or
sorry.
TSM.
Yeah, playing jungle, which was quite funny, and apparently he was actually pretty decent.
It
Again,
wasn't bad.
I don't watch enough LAC to speak educated on the matter,
Yeah.
really. But yeah, I don't. I just this roster screams uninspired to me, and I just I don't know what Dignitas is doing. I feel like they just downgraded so hard from last year. Like I said, River's a great signing, but I feel bad for River because this is like actually the retirement home meme. Like you joined a shitty
It
team,
is.
and you're just probably gonna lose hard. And I feel bad for him. But enough trashing on
Yeah.
Dignitas. Let's trash on everyone's favorite team to make fun of, Counter Logic
That's
Gaming.
right. That's the Sam the punching bag, baby.
Yeah, here we go,
Get
man.
into it.
Hey, let's get it. So the full team was confirmed this morning. It is Jenkins in the top lane, contracts in the jungle, Palafox in mid, Luger and Poom in bot lane. Uh, so first impressions, let's hear them.
I actually like Luger and Puma a lot. I think if you're gonna call up any sort of duo from Academy or Challenger, like definitely keep them as a duo first, and secondly, Luger and Puma are probably one of the most solid and like reliable duos you could probably ask for coming up,
Sure.
and especially as a uh, younger players. Puma has, I believe, played on stage at least once. I think it was last year in
Yeah,
summer,
yeah.
like very towards the very
He
end.
played in 2020 in the summer, near the end when they were
Yeah,
awful.
yeah, and as much as that counts as experience on stage, this will be very much the
That was
real
all
showing.
online too. Like keep that in
Oh,
mind.
2020,
Yeah.
2020 was online, right? Forgot. Sorry, totally blanked that entire year out of my mind.
But still, it's still stage games. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah, I know what you
for
mean.
sure. Um, no, I do like this bot lane a lot. I think this is kind of I think this is where their um, I would say like their PowerPoint is um, through these two. I think Palafox is fine.
Yeah.
TM, I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
like end of thought there. Palafox really did play well 2 years ago when he was on C9 Academy, and then didn't really make that jump that I think that his team really wanted him to. I think there was times where he did come through.
Yeah.
It just wasn't enough, right? It just I don't think he can do it consistently. I think CLG must have seen something in either trials or what have you that they said, no, we gotta give you another shot because I think you got it. Someone who definitely does deserve another shot is Contracts, and I am so happy that he's on the starting roster. I'm so happy that he's going to get full play time as of now. I don't know, CLG loves doing wonky things with the roster anyway, but I am so happy that he gets to go again here and show that he has improved and that his good games from EG weren't just a fluke and they can do it consistently. And then, honestly, Jenkins, I think he played well in Alfari's absence. I think what everyone is caught up with is he's not Alfari, and so his performance was disappointing, which
Yeah.
sucks so much on Jenkins, man.
And also, like, to be fair to Jenkins, like, they didn't put as much resources into him as they did Alfari. Like, Alfari's stats, like, people who just look at stats and, like, just ignore the rest of the game, it kind of annoys me because, like, the reason Alfari was able to get such good stats is because Core JJ and Santorin or Armeo, like, constantly were topside. They camped isn't even the proper term. They set up home. They literally
Yeah,
built a house there. Um, so like that was their entire like the way they played, right? And they didn't do that as much with Jenkins. They still helped him, of course, but like not to the same extent. So I'm actually happy Jenkins got a starting spot. I think he really showed that he can compete with some of the top laners. I his champion pool is like the one thing I stutter a bit at because
leaves a
I
little bit to desire. To
he-
the
he's a little bit of a gangplank one
yeah,
trick. So we'll see if he's able to like break out something new and surprise some people. Because if he is, then great. Or if he had a bigger pool and we just didn't see it, because like they're like, all right, let's just play this guy on his comfort because he's a sub. That's also
yeah.
possible too. So I'm not gonna act like it's 100%, but happy he gets a chance. Contracts deserves it. I think it's my hot take. I think Contracts is going to be who they probably build around for the next couple years on the CLG roster, assuming he just doesn't, bomb. I think
I,
he's such a stable piece that you kind of know what you're getting out of him. And if you're going to like build around that, I picture him sort of like a Xerxes and like an aggressive jungler like Contracts. He's what you're going to get, and he's a player that is quite solid. Palafox, I'm iffy on. I also think something about CLG because we haven't seen their academy team yet. Is
true.
that I don't think anyone's specifically mid and top. I don't think anyone on this roster is guaranteed safe. Um,
I
because
think that's an excellent point.
this is a young developmental roster, and that's what they said they were going to do. They want to build for the future, but COG can't place below eighth. I think if we see someone starting to falter, and again, this is up to Greg Kim and Think Card, whether they don't think there's enough upside in them, and they think there's more upside in the academy player, I think we're going to see a swap. And I don't know. I think we could see Palafox if he tanks, which I'm not saying he will. Potentially, lose his spot, or even Poom. I think Poom. He's had some really bad games in some that I've watched, but he's also
Yeah,
had so many great games too. So like, but if they don't want that inconsistency, they just want like a more stable person to make Luger, then I could see it, right? Um, so I don't know. I think this is like an interesting roster. I I don't have any faith to say that they'll place over eighth just on the roster alone on paper, but I think they can. It's possible, but like I'm not gonna say they will because I think there's just so many question marks on it.
it's funny because a lot of people saw CLG's roster last year as a team that could be like, oh, this is kind of a middle of the pack team,
Yeah,
right?
sixth or fifth. Yeah,
We have, yeah, we have a lot of talent here, a lot of guys that have proven to be solid. Finn, Broxa, Pope, Pope. These are players that have played it very well before. I don't see why they can't do it again. unlucky, right? 21 happens,
Did it
and
work?
didn't quite get there. So I think this team is probably a little closer to 8-7, like you said. I don't see them having that ceiling of breaking the top five at all. Especially
It's
when we
gonna
like talk.
it's gonna take a miracle.
It's gonna take a miracle, and it's gonna take like a little extra too.
It's
Like
gonna
it's
take
gonna
like
be
it's gonna need a clutch gaming level run.
it.
Like genuinely.
Yeah,
Where they were like seventh, eighth all year, and then they just go on a tear through the playoffs, right? And it's possible. It's happened before, but am I gonna bet on it? Hell no.
definitely not. Not
No.
this time.
I put too much faith in CLG last year. I actually believed in that roster, and I was betrayed.
Oh, so that was who was believing. It was you.
I
Because
was
all
I was a
CLG decided
believer.
they said don't believe and we'll do all right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I
Yeah,
know why.
yeah, it's my fault. I apologize. Any other thoughts on CLG, or are you gonna move on?
Oh man, no. Last thoughts are I'm happy that the coaching staff changed and the GM changed just because we can maybe avoid seeing a Bud Light Ace on Twitter.
Oh yeah, they got Bud Light
Uh,
Ace in the announcement
it did.
too. Why
It
did they
did
do
it
that? Why
again.
did they do that? Why did they announce all five in one tweet? You knew the meme was coming.
I don't know. It
It's
was so bad.
I don't know if they just said let's just embrace the meme. I wonder if that was like their rationale, like, hey guys, like we know we're gonna get dunked on regardless, let it go with all five, so let's just own it.
Maybe.
Like, I wonder if that was the meme. I don't know.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. They're like, yep, like we just gotta
Social
lean
media
into it
teams.
and hopefully, yeah.
Good job. All right, let's talk EG.
Oh, your
So
boys.
EG, yeah, my boys. We have Impact, still currently rumored, not confirmed, inspired. But then we have Jojo Pioon, Danny, and Vulcan confirmed. So we have four confirmed, and one still questionable, but pretty much confirmed. Uh, Honestly, like I think this is a great roster. I'm so happy Jojo Pioon was promoted. I know there was all the rumors about EG management possibly stepping in the way, uh, and like wanting. Apparently, the rumor was they wanted Jensen and Double Lift and getting rid of. I just can't picture getting rid of Danny. For some reason, because they wanted to make worlds. Like this is a team that has tried. This is something I talked about with Rob last week when the show that didn't happen. Uh, we I specifically said like EG's goal the last 2 years has been to make worlds. Both of the rosters were constructed for that. It was their entire reason. They said we want to be a top team. We want to be the next C9. We want to be the next TSM. We want to be the next TL. That was their goal when they entered this league. They were going to outspend them. They would do whatever it took, and it didn't happen. Specifically, the 2020 roster was had its issues. Pretty known that Bang was going through some stuff, and
Yep.
that bot lane with Zazel didn't go as intended. They had the roster swaps where they put in Golden Glue and Hooney. That didn't work out. So that tanked, and then they flipped the reset switch in 2021, and they got so close, one game from Worlds, but they didn't make it. Should have been probably 2 games from Worlds. Thank you, Danny, for coming through clutch. But
Yeah, I mean, just like the little last sentence there is exactly why I think so many fans would have been mad, right, if they moved on from Danny.
yeah,
Like the fact of the matter is he came in, saved EG in the time when they really needed him, and it's just like I don't know how more hyped you can get. Like that soundbite of him saying, Danny's going in, he's going for the penta. Like that is gonna be played forever,
and,
right?
and like Jizuke like hugging him after the game, picking him up
Yeah.
like they won the World Cup. It's so funny. It's so great.
It's just it's something that like this is gonna sound stupid. From like an organization wise, you should like hold on to that and never let go,
Yeah,
right? Like that
he's the
is
face.
exactly that is this is exactly where your team wants to be, right? EG already does like really fun marketing with being like evil and like think evil and whatever, and like
Live
Jizuke with the
evil, but yes,
flamethrower, live evil,
yeah.
right? Sorry. And if you want to like make worlds, I totally get that, right? And they've been doing it for the past 2 years, been trying to spend high to do that, and it hasn't really gotten there, right? But now you've just been gifted this opportunity of your EG Academy player comes up, massively performs, and now you're like, all right, we're gonna just ship him and sign in Double Lift, who hasn't played in like a year. Like I don't think.
Even like, why would you
Mm,
why would you spend so much on talent development and then just
Not
sign
using.
double lift gen. It's sort of what Immortals is doing right now,
Yeah,
but they also moved on from Yehoto. But like, why would you sign Peter Dunn? Why would you put? Why would you make the amateur team? Why would you like hire the person who started 100 Thieves next from 100 Thieves if you weren't going to stick with this? Why would you sign Kelsey Moser? It makes no sense.
exactly. Yeah,
So
which I'm excited that they didn't do that.
yeah,
And I'm excited that they did keep Danny. I am super excited that Jojo Pune, like you said, got called up. I think these two are going to be like the NALCS faces for a long time.
oh for
I
sure.
think I think these two in particular are just so incredibly talented, and they bring so much like, you know, excitement around them because they came through the, North American like Academy series, right? Like they are living proof that it does work.
Well, Danny never played in the Academy game.
I thought
He
he
was promoted
was.
from Prodigies.
Oh,
He was an
right.
amateur player.
Oh, I forgot.
So
You even
so
skipped all of
well
it.
that's the funny part.
Yeah.
So it was Shoryu, who's the former TLA
Yep.
ADC. He had a visa issue and could not get promoted. So then they went with Danny. That's what happened.
Gotcha. I
So
missed. I
the
missed that
original
part.
plan was Shoryu. Again, allegedly. I will say the allegedly, but that it's pretty much been all but confirmed that was
Okay.
that was the case. But some people, I think it was Kelsey Moser in particular, had a lot of faith in Danny. It was like Peter Dunn, like I'm telling you, dude, like even if we can get it solved, Danny's the way.
Like this
And
guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they went with it, and it ended up working, which is crazy. Like that's even more nutty than promoting like JoJo here. It's like
Yeah.
that's a leap of faith if I've ever seen it, you know?
It's just wow. What an even better story.
Yeah,
It just keeps building up and be like, yeah, we are keeping Danny forever. Like this is, and
it's
if
great.
and if he continues to play great, then it's just man, this is gravy. But more importantly, we'll talk about the other signings. Vulcan, massive,
Massive.
just so big for EG. Debate like I think that's a massive loss for Cloud9. As probably the best player consistently on Cloud9 was Vulcan, right? He was the catalyst for that team. He gets to do that now with EG, and I'm excited to watch this team in general because if Inspired also comes in, they're gonna have such a weird flavor of the game. Like Inspired's champion pool is already kind of weird. Like he plays so much fiddlesticks.
I love
He
it. I
play,
love
he, like, and
it.
and it's just yeah, this team's gonna be great. I think this team is gonna be just an absolute rock solid top three team, probably both splits.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if they win lock in, to be honest.
I think there's a chance. I think also I'm gonna say this now. JoJo could pull a fudge and just ain't locking.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to like people who are expecting him to like play at Jizuke levels because the way they play is actually more similar
I
than
was gonna say they're
different.
kind of like, yeah.
I mean they're not exact. No one plays exactly like Jizuke because he's nutty. But JoJo's pretty nutty too. And he's like hyper aggressive. And I see a world where everyone says, "Hey junglers, let's put a target on mid lane. This guy is coming up. He's probably gonna play nervous. Let's just camp him."
It's
And
pretty
I,
cold, right?
yeah, and honestly, if I was approaching it, that's probably what I would do. At least to see until some other teams tried it, I would do it because I would say, who cares? Like, let's just see what he does. If he ints, great, and if not, like, oh well,
Whatever.
right?
Yeah, like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
fine.
So I think there's a good chance we see Jojo Pune get the direst treatment and just not be
No.
allowed to play the game for
Yeah.
lock-in. But that's kind of what I was thinking. I guess I'll touch slightly on Inspired, as you kind of said. He has a great champion pool. I would have loved to see contracts stay on EG. I know I'm in the minority on that, and it seems like that was in the air for a bit too. That's just they ultimately didn't go with it. But you know what? This team only has one import slot being used as well. Impact's not an import anymore, so you have it's just Inspired, which is kind of cool actually, because
It's
Vulcan is
neat. Yeah.
Canadian, Danny obviously, and JoJo are NA. So pretty exciting, honestly. I guess you could, if you want to be like picky. Yes, it's 3-2, but even that's pretty good for NA nowadays. We'll take that. That's better than 100
It,
Thieves.
that's
Let's
very good.
go. They're 1-5 out there.
Oh, gosh. Jeez, I don't even. It still boggles my mind that FBI like is the only like
No, he's
like
not.
And I mean, he's not even right.
Yeah,
It's
he's
because
Osh.
he's from Os.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my god.
it's funny.
Anyway, it's
But
so
any other
classic.
thoughts?
No, I'm excited to watch this roster play, man.
All
I
right,
can't wait to see him.
fair enough. Let's talk about. Okay, this is. I was just making sure. This is
Yeah,
FlyQuest.
this
Yeah.
is Fly. Yep.
Okay, so the current rumor, I think this is according to Travis Gafford, is Kumo, Jose Diodo, Takui, Johnson, and Afromu. The Afromu and Johnson is official now. I don't believe anything else is. Um, I don't think
I
Takui.
don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't
Takui
think
was
it's
announced.
official yet. But more and more rumors have or reports have come in that that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I think even I think that was one of the things during the free agency show was that they were going with Takui. I could be mistaken though. But yeah, overall though, I think this is a middle of the pack roster, if not lower half of the roster. Uh, like if they decide to go with Kumo, that's the only one I really don't like on paper. I think Kumo had his chance on EG. I think he had his chance on Fly last year, and I don't think he looked insane. Um, I know there was like
Wondering.
tryouts for the position was the rumor that like a
Yeah,
bunch of people were trying. It seems like they didn't have someone better to sign, and because Jose Diodo and Takui are your two import slots, well then you're kind of SOL, right?
that is a
Um,
bit of my worry that's may have what happened with Fly.
and I but like and then that even brings up the question more. Then why not just get NXI, who's I would say just as good as Jose Diodo, and then import top instead of importing jungle, which is just meh. But then the answer is, well, there goes all your branding, and there goes all your marketing, and there goes everything
Yeah,
that was worked for in 2021. So I don't
I
know.
know, which is so rough. It's rough when, um, the other hoodie or 100 Thieves has done so well. When a team that like ends up being more known for their marketing,
Yeah.
it's a little disheartening to see the foundation of the marketing kind of get moved away because their team's like actually not performing.
Mm.
So I mean, I don't think it's so true with Golden Guardians last year with Niles and Iconic, where they were like, "Oh, we're bringing up the college players, right? This is gonna
Yeah.
be our year," and then they kind of sit safely down in 7-9.
Well, I think their
Um,
entire goal was to make playoffs. I don't think they were ever shy on that. Like their entire
yeah,
goal all year was just to make playoffs. Because they knew they weren't going to win. They knew they weren't even going to get top half.
yeah,
They were like, if we can get some wins off top half teams, that's great. Like awesome. But we aren't expecting to win.
yeah.
and
So in general, this FlyQuest roster is exciting for I guess it's for two reasons. One, Takui, I have not seen a single match, which is definitely on me. I should go
nor
just
have
check
I.
out the
I
VOD,
I have not
right?
watched out. I have not watched a single bit of
I'm
him, but I checked out his stats, and his stats are very good.
Yeah.
So
it- Takui is very exciting for a lot of people. At least the LSC Twitter was very excited about it, as he was. I
LFL
believe he was
specifically, yeah,
LFL. Yep. And what more exciting can you get with Johnson and Afro back together,
yeah.
right? Like bot lane that was performing very highly. They took some time off. They had some distance. See if their other bot lane partners can do it. But nope. Now they're back together, and I want to see them succeed because they should, right? And I think they should be able to succeed despite the top half of the map being definitely not as strong.
Yeah, I think the bot lane is the strong point of the team. I guess we'll see how Takui does. I think he should do well. But should and will are two different things.
Yep.
Yeah, but Afro Johnson is a solid bot lane. And if you compare these versus some of the others like Neo Bio, I think they could beat that. Luger Poom, I think they could beat that. Even Berserker Isles or Winsome, I don't know how they'll do, so I think it's possible they could beat that. Lost Ole, they could beat that. Destiny Wild Turtle, I think they could beat that.
I
Like
think so.
these are so many winnable bot lanes for this team. So I think that's their strong point on paper alone. Takui, like I said, fine. Jose Diodo is serviceable, and I think
That's
serviceable.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just like
I
I,
don't
I don't
know.
think there's anything that he does special. He does also play fiddlesticks. That like he does special and that like no other player can do. You know?
He really made a mark like in worlds when people really saw him perform really well. I think that shine has kind of faded a bit, and now it's more of all right. So you didn't really, make waves when you came into the LCS. Didn't really like shake the world, and you even got benched for a little bit. I I don't know. I'm concerned to see if he can step up,
Yeah.
but if he can't,
In
it's gonna be
fairness to him, though, I mean that entire Fly roster last year was a mess.
it was tragic.
Coaching
Yeah.
staff wise, like player wise, everything about that Fly team that like everyone was saying like, oh, this is like a fifth or sixth team, just fell apart. Like I think some people were even projecting like fourth place for this FlyQuest roster, like which to me was crazy from the start. Like I was like, no way they ever get that. But like people were really bullish on them, and then I think they placed 10th, didn't they? No, no, they placed ninth. CLG placed 10th.
Ninth.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, they flopped. Uh, and if it wasn't for that 3-0 week, actually with the academy roster, they would have got
Y-
10th.
Yeah, they would have secured that last seed.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy. So I don't know, man. It's like I think this team actually there is a chance that they could just bomb again. But I know they got a new coach. I forget who. I think I saw something about that. So that's good. I think all that coaching staff last year just purged that. I think that entire team last year just erase it from memory. Nothing happened. Let's just move on. So honestly, like I don't really have much more to say other than that. I think this team is they have a lot to prove.
definitely, no, if there's a team that really needs to like show that they went and made moves and the moves mattered, it's probably gonna be FlyQuest
It's
here.
CLG and Fly, yeah. I would
Yep.
agree. Uh anything else? Are we good?
Oh, please let's move on.
Golden Guardians, everyone's favorite team that no one knows
Yes.
nothing about. We have Licorice, Pride Stalker, Blaze Olive, Lost, and Ole. I love this roster. I love it.
I don't, but I'm excited that
Oh,
you love it.
okay. I love it. I first of all, I love Golden Guardians. Not because I think they're a good brand. I think they're the worst brand in the LCS, which is impressive because Immortals is a really awful brand.
Yeah.
And I guess FlyQuest fixed that, but even CLG's whatever. Licorice is great. I think that's a great
Yep.
person to build around. No issues there. Pride Stalker is an interesting pickup. I'll get to more of that later. Blaze Olive, obviously great. He was contention for rookie of the split. He got second place last year. Deserves another chance. Not even another chance. He deserves to be there. Lost to, I think, kind of got tragically screwed over on TSM, and then Ole. So to me, the way that this team is going to work is that I think we're going to see a bit more bot side focus. Lost was known in his academy days for playing like really aggressive, and that obviously didn't happen on TSM when you have Hootie. That's not going to happen when you have Power of Evil. Like they put more resources on top side than they did bot side ever, which is ironic because they paid $6 million for support. Good job, Reggie. You really
Ridiculous.
screwed
So
that one up.
ridiculous.
Just, just,
Yeah.
just drop the ego and sign double if that team would have been that team would have made worlds. Crazy. But like this gives Lost a chance to actually like play in that style. And I think Ole, a former double lift ADC who is very dependent on resources, wow, that makes sense actually. So I love that bot lane duo. And then Pride Stalker is a pretty from what I've seen at least, and I want to make it clear, I have not seen enough to speak on this like an educated person. But what I have seen and what I have heard is that he plays very aggressive. He is the type of in-your-face juggler. He has some nutty picks. He's known for his Rengar. I don't think we'll see that because Rengar is awful with a lot of the rift changes. But like just he's known for these weirder picks. So I can see that being something that they kind of build identity around. And I think we're going to see Licorice on tank duty the majority of the time, or like Gwen, or like some of the other like bruisery champs.
Yeah. Very low eco kind of
Low
champion.
maintenance, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like when I think of Licorice, I think of his Orn. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind was the C9 Worlds run where he was on Orn duty, and he played it amazing, right? Like I don't think
Yeah.
of Licorice as like I don't think of him as like as a gosh, I'm blanking. Alfari.
Carry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think of him as an Alfari. I don't think of him as a Huni. Like, or I guess not 2021 Huni, but 2020 and before Huni.
Yeah,
Like where he's just like a hyper aggressive,
like
needs a ton of
playmaking.
resources. Yeah,
Yeah,
I see him as a tank guy who plays incredibly well and is a like a stalwart sort of guy. So I don't know. I love this roster. I think it's great.
yeah. I just don't see the at least on my first impression was I don't see the consistency with this team.
All right.
Uh, I do love aggressive players in general. I think they make the plays that other teams don't. I think when they are on a roll, right? This is why I love Blabber. Same exact thing. When you make the aggressive play and it works, and you get those steamroll going, and like the game's really over at 15, it makes your team look really, really good. The problem with the coin flippingness of the aggressive is that when your opponents kind of see it coming, right? When you have four players that are going to be aggressive on your team, like I would imagine you game plan for it.
Yeah.
So when you kind of reach that like kind of like a wall there where you can't really be aggressive anymore, and now you're playing a little bit on the back foot, or even you're playing like even tempo, right? It's gonna be a lot harder to continually like gain footing in that game, or at least kind of gain like an advantage because you kind of lost that first, you know, your first line of defense
Yeah.
or rather offense. So especially with Lost and Ole, I am hesitant because I personally liked Lost a lot last year. I thought when they did actually play to him, those were the games that like they won pretty handily, right? And wow, who knew? Giving Sora also resources was pretty good,
Yeah.
but this is now kind of his chance to be like, I swear it wasn't me. Like I did my fair share for TSM to get us to where we were, and
Yeah.
like you know, I can play this game at a really high level, and I truly believe that for Lost. I do totally agree with you with Ole playing with Double F in the past, going to Worlds with TL, and being that like really solid support player. I just really hope he still has it in him. I do really hope that grinding on solo queue and getting to the highest rank you can, right? Like really is enough to mimic that LCS experience. Um, totally agree with the Blaze Olive too. Absolute stud. I thought coming in as a rookie, he was great. I thought definitely like the shining light or like the kind of like the bright point.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure of that team.
yeah. And then Licorice, I just think uh, he is now like settling into as like perennial like top five, just top laner. He is just so great, and I want him to like have a season where he's back to being just like excellent and just being like truly, truly like all star first team kind of ballot
And we
player.
saw that. We saw a glimpse of that when he went back to Golden Guardians. Like I think
Yeah.
he got didn't he win player this of the week
Yep.
on his first week back on Golden
He
Guardians.
did. He played really well, and it's so funny when the environment changes and the player who fans thought they were end up being the same player that they were, right? Like
Yeah.
they are who we thought they were, and it's the most ridiculous phrase of all time, but it works. It works here
You're
sometimes.
right.
Um, and then just like my earlier tangent on just aggressive players, especially with Pride Stalker. Um, Aggressive junglers, I love them to death. But I'll really, really be interested to see how they do in lock in these early games. Does Prize Stalker continue to not fear anything, right? Do they continue to play aggressively? Or does the coaching staff and the team say, like, all right, let's reel it in for a little bit, and then we'll unleash you once you're a little more comfortable? Because if that's the case, relearning a playstyle is probably going to be pretty tough for a jungler at a LCS level. So
I can imagine
um,
that. Yeah.
I think this is the team that's going to surprise me the most in the most kind of exciting way. So
I think this is honestly a top half team, and that's something I think I'm willing to stick by at least now on how the teams are looking, unless something changes. Like I genuinely think this is like a fifth place team, and I think it's quite an
I can see
improvement.
that for sure. Yeah, oh, totally.
All right, let's go on the Mortals. Mortals is weird. First of all, they lost Gihoto, and Gihoto is now on Team Liquid. I don't think they announced a new coach today. I know they officially got rid of him today.
No, they did not
All right.
announce his replacement yet.
So this also to me screams a change in direction for Immortals. Immortals was trying to be a more developmental roster. Gihoto was always talking about his 3-year plan. I even had an interview I never uploaded, sadly, with Kyoto. It was right after they lost in playoffs, and he's like, "Yeah, like
Oof.
next year, dude, we got this." And I kind of said I never uploaded that. That's on me. Late upload, maybe I'll do it.
There it is.
But it's interesting that we still see a couple of those pieces there. I bet he had a part to build with this roster. I think they wouldn't have kept Revenge otherwise. I think he probably convinced them to keep him. Because I think Revenge was fine. I think he showed so many points of brightness, but I think he also showed a lot of points of downside. So I wonder if they said like they saw that and they said, all right, well, we're constantly getting better. It was a lot less coin flippy as the year went on, but I also think he lost a teensy bit of that edge that made Revenge. So I want to see them like put a little bit more faith in him. Xerxes
No,
great.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think you said the perfect thing about Revenge. When you get like comfortable or you get like accustomed to the league, you kind of like bend towards their play style, right?
Yeah,
Especially if you're a newer player. So yeah, bringing back to twisting that back to Revenge. It's gonna be great.
yeah, that's what I
All
want
right,
to
keep
see.
going.
Xerxes great. I don't think anyone really thinks that he should have got replaced. He was the by far the best point player on that team last year. I think he also the meta kind of worked out for him in a sense with like the Rumble coming back in, and some of these more I guess easier characters. Not like I had a shade on him, but I think it made executing that team a lot easier. So it's gonna be interesting to see where the jungle meta goes this year because it's a lot is still up in the air. Uh, but that's fine. Power of Evil. He got a
He's
landing
back.
spot. That was one of the biggest free agents in the offseason that no one really knew where he would be. And he ended up landing a spot on Immortals. The original rumors were indicating towards Jizuke. So I wonder if just nuttiness with Revenge and Jizuke and Xerxes was just too much that they said, all right, let's dial it back a bit. Let's go Power of Evil, a lot
Yeah, let's
easier.
bring in the most stable mid laner of all time.
Yeah, and they just said, "All right, that's it. We don't need another wild card in this team." And genuinely, I think that's what happened. Because to me, like I think it was again, it was last week in the lost episode, the second episode of the series. That Rob was like, "Yeah, like this is just there's too much here. Like Jizuke and Xerxes and Revenge, like that's not going to work." So I guess he was right. Power of Evil is the play. And finally, in the bot lane, we have Turtle and Destiny. Uh, I'm happy Turtle's back. I love Wild Turtle, and I'm
Yeah,
happy he got another chance because I don't think he was the issue on CLG, and I think he was great on FlyQuest. So, and you return him with Power of Evil, who was also on that Fly roster. Destiny's a little bit weirder to keep, but again, I think he's a fine support. I don't think he's bad, but like I said, I don't think he's objectively better than like Isles. So, just throwing that out there.
yeah. I like Destiny. I think he's fine. I think, yeah, across the board, I think this team's just okay. I like that sounded a little mean because they generally have some really high upside with this team, right? And I will like go on a soapbox and just say, stop letting PoE go in the off season. Someone keep him around. Like this,
He's
he's
collecting
just been.
jerseys, dude.
He is just like he's collecting jerseys, just sell them back on an auction site. Be like, wow, it's so weird, right? It's like look at this. Um, no man, he was so solid on TSM, and I am kind of shocked they let him go. But then at the same time, when you're hearing other rumors of like, oh, we're going for TSM Chovy or like TSM like some other crazy name or like we're gonna go get Bjergsen back because he's not done being coaching. Um, but no, I think PoE is just like the perfect glue for this team. Like you said, Xerxes and Revenge, a little bit wild card, but like definitely have high upside. And like you said, Turtle is just uh, at this point, I guess a more journeyman type of AD carry that just can play well and just plays every character just like at a high level. And yeah, I
He has
don't
experience in every meta, which is something that no
exactly.
one like people take for granted, but that does matter.
It's huge, and it's huge for especially when you're on a team that's rebuilding, completely new fight. I guess Revenge and Xerxes have been here, but new bottom half of the map, right? Like this is important. I think PoE and Turtle specifically they bring a lot to the table that will help. I think Immortals like take that step up.
Mm, I do not disagree. I think yeah, it gets rid of the two weakest points for me on that team last year. I don't think Insanity was bad. Uh, I just don't think Insanity ever got. He never. He had moments that stood out, but I don't think it was ever enough to justify keeping.
Right. I totally agree there.
And so like I think I when I think of Insanity, I think of those high moments, but then I also think of, well, what happened between those high moments, right? And I can't think of a
It
single
was,
thing. So it's
yeah.
like I think that speaks volumes. So Power of Evil is someone who even last year, how many amazing stream and shuffles did this dude have? Like that single handedly won TSM games. It's crazy. He was like Faker with those shuffles. It was nutty.
Which is like it's yeah, I think you just hit like it's just so baffling, man. He is so good at the characters that he's at, right? Like any control mage, any classic mage, he is just so good, and yet like I don't know, it's
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad, dude.
upsetting.
But yeah, no, honestly, I like this roster, and I think they are a contender. Not saying they will. I wouldn't even put them in good odds, but I think they're a contender for the third seed for Worlds. Not like I
Really?
would put them like at 5 to 10%,
Yeah.
but I think they're
Okay.
a contender. And so like I'm looking at like to me like 100 Thieves and TL, which we'll get to in a second, are locks. Like if these
Yeah.
two don't make it, I would be incredibly shocked. Um, but then like I think EG could do it. I think C9 could do it. I think TSM could do it, and I think Immortals could do it. Looking at the rosters,
I
and
think Immortals
I will
gets there.
throw
Yeah.
in Golden Guardians at like a 1%,
I love that.
just because I think there's a possibility. But like
Yeah.
this is like the thing. The third seed is always the hard one to guess. Like you can usually guess who's
Fair.
going to end up at the top, or like which team is going to be the third. Not like seed wise, but you
Yeah.
can usually get like two of the three if you're going to guess at the beginning of the season. But I don't know. I think it's possible because this is a team that has that dynamicness, that has enough skill on paper to do it. So
Yeah, I think if revenge levels up this year, I think you that 5 to 10% goes like to 45. I think that's kind of like all they need to do.
yeah, I mean, and it also I think depends on how good EG and C9 end up being because no
Yep.
one really knows yet. Specifically, C9 I think is a little bit harder to guess, but let's get on the Team Liquid. I don't think anything has changed since we originally talked about them, but it's Whippo inspired. Wait, no, it's not inspired. Why do we have inspired?
Yeah, it should be in
Uh,
Santorin.
yeah, we
I
have
think we messed up the copy paste
yeah,
there.
we wrote up. Yeah, I was like, that doesn't seem right. It's Flippo, Santorin, Bjergsen, Hansama, and Core JJ. There is a chance that Elya, the current TLA support, could get in there because apparently no one really knows yet, but there is some talk of Core JJ having some green card issues. So until that would be resolved, Elya, the support would end up playing because they can't play with 3 imports. Um, so just that's worth mentioning because he's really good. He's really good, but he's not Core JJ. So I don't know.
Yeah.
This roster's great. I think they're top two. There's not a chance they're not top two. If they're not top two, then this is a bigger failure to me than 2020 Team Liquid. Like because you spent you went out and you replaced some good players. So you replaced Jensen with Bjergsen. You replaced Tactical with Hansama. You got Bwippo. Like you brought in Bwippo. Like a year ago, no one would have believed that he would go to NA, and then you ended up doing it. Like it's crazy the amount of money that I'm sure they spent to do this. It's nuts.
Steve came through, and I am like, there's really not much to say about this roster other than exact like if it is a pure failure if they do not I mean, if I'll just say it this way, if they do not get out of groups at Worlds,
It's a
massive
failure.
failure. Because like
Yeah.
even not even saying like, oh, they have to get 2 Worlds, right? Like no, like if we're assuming they're going to
If this team
because
doesn't make
let's
finals, it's a disappointment in the LCS. Like
if this team goes anything under top 3, this is like
an
a big red
embarrassment.
button. Just like wow, we just burnt so much money for just like the worst storyline of all
And they
time.
bought out
For
Gihoto.
and they bought out Kyoto
That's
from Immortals.
insane. And he was on a 3-year contract, so they got 2 years still with Gihoto here. Like this roster must have been so expensive. I can't even fathom it. Like Bjergsen, unless like Bjergsen is selling us like doing something shady with the shares of TSM to like some sort of like shell company. which is possible. I don't know. I don't know how the LCS enforces that. Um, then like they had to justify him selling his ownership in TSM. Like it's crazy.
Dude, this whole like this is probably the most egregious attempt at a super team that we've seen in, I guess, like
Vitality in this, dude.
a year, right? Like, yeah, like in the Vitality's, rumored roster.
Yeah.
Like, man, it is crazy to me that like some of these rookies that like are coming up from academy are like now have to do with this monstrosity of a roster.
Imagine being
like
like Jojo
I
Pune in
got a
your first
shot.
game playing Bjergsen.
You're
Like,
like,
yeah, like this sucks.
oh,
Fudge playing Bjergsen in this first game.
oh my
Like what the
god,
heck?
that's gonna be. No, I'm not excited for that matchup at all.
I just can't
uh,
wait to see Zillion. That's all I want to see is
my
Bjergsen
first,
Zillion.
yeah,
I think
I
there's never enough of it. It's so much fun.
and
But
it's just so good. But
so
yeah, I don't know, not much else to say of this roster other than like, yeah, the expectations are sky high because they should be, right? When you spend this much money, like you even loot, like you swapped out a top laner for, amazing top laner for another great one, right? Like, so really
no,
no change there, but
to be fair, they also got to sell Alfari, so they definitely
they
got
did.
some of their initial money back from that. Which I guess it's still money spent at the end of the day, because then they're buying someone else with it. But
Yeah.
I mean, they got some funds from that, and I think probably Alfari's value went up since last year,
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. So they probably got a good amount from Vitality. The only thing is you're eating Jensen's contract too.
I know that's rough for them.
They're eating, and I don't. There's probably some stipulations in the contract. No one really knows. Usually, Tim from Oracle's Elixir had a really good video on this and how like contracts are normally handled in the LCS. He can't speak to everyone's, of course, but normally being the keyword. So it seems like usually there's some way out for the org and the player, depending on like whether they're just getting rid of him entirely or they're keeping him as a sub or they're doing
Yep.
something. There's some stipulations in there, but no one knows. They could just be eating Jensen's contract if he hadn't signed it that way. So it's interesting because they
We'll
haven't let him
see.
go. They haven't let
I
Jensen
know.
go. They're still. I think they're still trying to sell him uh, to someone. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe the next
TSM
team.
Jensen. Who
Maybe the
knows?
next team.
Yeah.
It's possible because TSM. So the current roster that is pretty much confirmed is Huni and Spica in the top lane. We don't know who in the mid lane with tactical ADC, and we don't know who has support. Uh, One of the big things here is that apparently TSM signed some Chinese coach. I think he was, oh God, I forget his name.
Shawi from
Yeah.
Hong Kong
Oh yeah,
Attitude.
it was Hong Kong Attitude. Yeah, so we're gonna have Talking HKA coming on Rob's new series. Um, of course, with Talking TPA, Taipei Assassin, it's gonna be
Yeah.
great. Two new spinoffs. But yeah, Hong Kong Attitudes coach, kind of funny. An odd coach to me to pick up, not one that probably would anyone would have thought of. Uh, but Hong
Yeah.
Kong Attitude is was always a contender. Whenever they showed up at an international event, so it's not the worst signing ever. But also that opens the doors to a apparent Chinese player for this team. Um,
Yeah.
and that's the current
It's
rumor right now.
it is bizarre at first glance because you're like, who? Like it gave a little bit of the same feeling as C9 signing Winsome
Yeah,
and Berserker. You're like, who are these people? And then you go deep dive on Wikipedia or LawFan, like or whatever
Lolpedia,
you
yeah,
use, Law Media, like, and then at the end of it, you're like, okay, that didn't do anything for me.
yeah,
Like, oh, like he coached Hong Kong Attitude for a couple of years. Like, I assume he's good because HK usually does show up to Worlds. They usually throw a little like haymakers and get a win once in a while. Like,
yeah.
is it going to change the course of TSM? I don't know. But the rumor mill keeps going with TSM, man. It is just like,
TSM always has the most crazy
yeah,
off-season rumors, man. It's almost comical on how like TSM's off-season always like ends up being like the most interesting off. Them and C9 end up being the
yeah,
most interesting off-seasons to watch because it's crazy. You never know what's gonna happen. I don't think we'll be seeing a Sword Art level signing though. From them. And I think who was the mid laner they were looking at? That apparently fell through, and he's starting at Afrika. That was the rumor that I saw this morning.
um,
I
they were
forget his
looking.
name.
thought they were looking at Fate and
Yeah,
Life.
it was Fate. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Fate Law. Let me just check this real quick, but I'm
yeah,
pretty
because
sure.
he was on Live Sandbox as well, I believe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to a Freak of Freaks. Um, gosh, I gotta find this. Because I saw that this morning. Yeah, it's apparently Arya is also in contention on a Freak of Freaks along with Fate. So that's the
Interesting.
current rumor right now. So
That's crazy.
yeah, I mean, both of those seem better than Fly to me. So I'm not complaining. As a Freaka fan. But yeah, so that's apparently the mid laner that was TSM was looking at down the drain. And again, that's not confirmed. Maybe they get it back. Who knows, right?
Right.
But it opens up so much. And now the current rumors with a LPL or like a I forget what the league under the LPL is called. Um, is it like LC? I want to say LCD, but that's a display. But whatever it is, like
Yeah.
that league has a lot of great players too. So maybe they grab someone from there for relatively cheap. And also like I'm pretty sure Huni and Spica can speak a little bit of Chinese, correct? Wasn't that something they were doing last year?
Um, Potentially to help out Sword Art. I think that would make sense if they learned a little bit of Mandarin.
Yeah, I
Um,
think Huni knew Mandarin because it's relatively similar to Korean. I don't want to say that, but like I think he said something like that, and he
I'm
knew
not
like
sure if they're
some
too
from.
similar, but
No,
yeah,
no,
but
there's
I think
some
he knew a little
overlap.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some overlap. Because like I don't know, I'm probably
You're
speaking out of
good.
my ass. But like I knew they mentioned it in like a
No,
TSM
I
Legends.
will say, yeah, I will say, typically with like mixed rosters like that, like I mean mixed rosters for people from different, nationalities, they will learn like a couple of phrases
Mhm.
just to help out in comms. At least, I've like a little bit of like Overwatch, talking to people, talking to like, players. They will learn like the go 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 commands for some either if they're Korean and talking in English and English talking to Korean. So
Mhm.
um I would imagine that Huni and Speaker have learned a little bit of Mandarin at the time with Sword Art. Um, will that and it's weird because it's kind of like when you're looking at the signings from C9, right? They might sign an LS, but they're also allegedly signing a lot of people that LS liked around, right? So if CSM is rumoring they're gonna bring in HKA coach, and then they might sign another player from the LPL, and it's kind of like, all right, this might be slowly but surely real, something more concrete. Who really knows at this point? I
True.
mean, uh, I think it was actually JJ was like, "Oh, TSM icon maybe."
Any like
Who
honest to
knows,
God,
right?
anything's possible with TSM right now. I feel like they're going to take whatever the LPL just doesn't devour. Like whatever
I think
teams
that
like
sounds about right.
yeah, like so like the LPL is gonna like be like, all right, we're gonna take this because a lot of the LPL is blowing up. Same thing even with Korea is blowing
Yeah,
up
the
too.
LCK is crazy right now. Yeah,
Everything Eastern is nuts. That's why it's going to be a great discussion with JJ next week because it's going to be fun. Because there's so much going on. Like I can't even keep up with it. So it's like they're going to take whoever's probably left over. They'll probably keep Hooney Spica. Specifically, they'll probably keep Hooney. I think Spica's like a lock.
yeah.
Uh,
Reggie had said those two are locked. At this point, who knows with Reggie in general?
yeah. Well, also like they apparently tested Hooney in other positions. Uh,
I
this was
love that.
this was something that was considered. They specifically tested him in mid and ADC. Uh, and if you remember back on in the 2020 offseason, Hooney role swapping was a rumor.
Yep.
So I wonder if that's still on the table. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I would bet it won't. But it's worth mentioning because it's something that's been a consistent rumor. And honest to God, I could see Hooney playing mid. Like that to me is not outrageous. Because
No.
a lot of his champions probably can be played. Like he plays Rumble, guys. Like Rumble's hard. Rumble's really hard to play at like a high level. So like I think he could play Control Mage like no problem.
I would love to see Huni mid, man. I would love to see just
Huni
more and more
fudge
top
mid.
laners.
Let's go.
Yeah,
The ultimate
absolute
showdown.
chaos,
Yeah.
absolute chaos.
This offseason has been very entertaining. There's been a couple just baffling moves like Bjergsen coming back, young rookie talent, 10th place LEC mid laners coming in, like PCS signings, like just nutty stuff that like no one probably would have guessed going into this year. Uh, Honestly, the only thing that I'm kind of shocked about is that it seems like C9 is the only team importing a Korean.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, no one else is. Dignitas isn't. COG isn't. EG isn't. Fly isn't. Golden Guardians aren't. Immortals aren't. I guess you could technically, if you want to like, I guess Core JJ, but like new imports, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
River is technically South Korean,
yeah.
but
Oh,
played for
but
PCS.
yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. No one from the no one
No
at
one
the
from
LCK.
LCK.
Yeah,
And again, so TSM could still buck that trend. With the rumors, but it's just
that's
interesting.
crazy. I didn't realize.
We've been declining on Korean like reliance. We've been going to LEC the last 2 years. Like last year, who was signed that was Korean? No one. There was not a single new Korean signing in 2020.
Wow.
So I think it's interesting though that
Yeah.
we're seeing C9 possibly go back to that strategy because C9 has had a lot of success doing that with Impact. With God, who was the other top laner they had?
Well, now I'm liking too.
Yeah, that guy, you know who I'm talking about. But like, it's interesting. Even someday, like way back from when he was originally on Dignitas, and then obviously 100 Thieves got him. But like, it's just we're kind of going back to the old ways, and I think we've kind of yoinked so much talent from the LAC at this point that there's not
Yeah.
much left. So we're kind of going to Korea now again. I don't know.
It's about that time, right? You
Yeah.
know, LC didn't work out. All right, we'll go back to see what we can get from LCK.
Well, see, LAC didn't make finals this year, so they said, "All right, well, unfortunately, 2 years in a row not in finals, LAC. We're not taking
Oof.
any more of your. Oh, we took a lot, but we're not getting any more of your players, right? We're gonna go back to Korea. They made finals this year. They won Worlds 2 years ago. But yeah, I'm kind of beaming. But honestly, that's all we got today. Got any last words?
uh, I am so excited to see these last few teams really flesh out the roster because as fun as speculating on rumors is, when you finally get the full roster, then you can really dive deep into it and you can really be like, wow, they lost the offseason and they being Cloud9. So,
Well, we'll do a power rankings episode with Rob at some point for sure. Once all the rosters are revealed,
oh
we'll
yeah.
definitely, and we could even do Academy in there, like as a for fun. But Academy always comes out so late.
Oh yeah, people are gonna hate me during that one. I can feel that for sure.
Yeah,
They're like, oh, this guy's actually Hardstuck Silver. What's going on?
Hardstuck. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're not even hard. Dude,
I haven't whiffed gold in years.
I started last episode with like, we're welcome back to Hardstuck Gold, the series where Rob wishes could be Hardstuck Gold, just making fun of him for being silver. It would have been so great, but unfortunately, I did not do that. For
It's
this
all right.
one.
I'll be on the B side of this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll end things here. Check out thegamehouse.com for all things esports. We have a bunch of scouting grounds interviews. That was something that we talked a lot about last week. Other media outlets, where are you at? Why are you not covering scouting grounds at all? Kind of annoying, kind of cringe. We had that discussion too. But check out our interviews; they're great. Scouting grounds, great event. So much young talent. We got a bunch of articles on the site about roster rumors. So if you want to keep up to date with that, go ahead. And yeah, bye bye.
All right, thank you. Peace.